everybody wants to get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
Whether you meet a graffiti artist at a wall, or you meet them at some kind of event, or maybe you have a traveling black book that goes from one graffiti artist to another and mailed between them, it's a sign of respect in order to share your work with one another. So in today's video, I wanted to go ahead and take a look at the work that you guys submitted for our 1985 digital black book that's traveling around the world. If you guys want to get in on this, if you want to pick up the digital sketchbook for yourself, I'll have more information at the end of the video. But the whole entire goal, the whole entire mission behind this was to allow for you guys to share your art and share in that camaraderie with one another in order to provide your artwork for this book. That way, any of you guys can go ahead and download it for a constant source of inspiration and in order to see what other people in this community are doing. But before we open the pages of this digital sketchbook, let's do a little bit of a story time, going down memory lane, if you will. Now, my dad started doing graffiti in 1972 back in New York, before he ended up moving over to Newark and then going to the military after that. So this sketchbook is a little bit deeper in his journey, if you will, but I remember as a kid seeing this along with a few other books really high up on the bookshelf, and I mean, I was a real small kid, right? So back then I wasn't able to quite reach those heights. I couldn't just like reach up and grab the book, but I remember me and my brother used to always look at it up there and we wanted to see it, but we kind of weren't allowed to back then. Much to his dismay though, there were hand styles all over different shelves and different cabinets and whatnot that he had done. And even on Christmas when he would like, write from Santa on the presents, it was always done as a hand style, right? It always had like a really sick S and the whole thing was real done up nice and stylish. So inevitably, me and my brother ended up kind of becoming enthralled with graffiti from a really early age at that. And it wasn't too long, I don't know exactly what age, maybe like around 3rd grade, I ended up seeing one of my father's old sketchbooks. And man, me and my brother, we were awestruck. We were completely taken back from the things that were in those pages. It really embodied like that old school graffiti, the old school New York energy that a lot of that graffiti back then had. Now, me and my brother, we ended up falling in love with graffiti. We took it very seriously. That passion is carried out throughout the years. It's also been something in all 3 of our lives that we've kind of shared and bonded over. So one year when we were opening up gifts and I was passed a box that had this sketchbook in there, it was a really big moment for me. It was a very sentimental moment for me because this went from being just a book on a shelf that was always felt like out of reach and I wouldn't be able to see, to now being something that is on my shelf that now I own and I can look at it whenever I want. And it's still a great source of not only inspiration but a great source of joy and happiness in order to see some of the stuff that my dad was doing back when he was younger. But it also is a window into the past as far as a lot of the styles and a lot of the concepts in graffiti back at those times. And it really meant a lot for me, and that's something I wanted to pass to you guys with, once again, a sense of camaraderie and a sense of inspiration for the community in general, which is why I decided to make this digital sketchbook. So we open up to the very first page here. We're greeted with a sketch that my dad actually did that him and I collaborated on. He went ahead and sketched the letters and I colored it in. If you know me personally, you know I am obsessed with subsurface scattering. It is easily my favorite thing to paint. So we got some subsurface scattering 3D as well as interior details where you can actually peek inside of the letter. And as you look into the deeper layers of the letter, you're able to see, once again, interior details and extensions that are inside of the actual physical letter itself, which I always really enjoy doing. I find it to be a great deal of fun, and I can't get enough of shading subsurface scattering. But the letters themselves are sick. They're real awesome. Once again, bringing it back to that kind of old school look and aesthetic that a lot of those writers had back then. Then we got Dear underneath that, D-E-A-R, and they have such a beautiful piece. I love this piece so much. The way they shaded it and just the downward slope to everything kind of going lower as the name continues, it worked out amazingly. Phenomenally well done. Also, let's kind of take note of the fact that they have such a massively heavy D. That sounds wrong. My 12-year-old immaturity came out. They have a heavy D. But there are, despite being a naturally heavy letter, it's really lightweight. And yet they still make it all flow. They still make it all work together. Very beautiful piece. Absolutely love it. Then we have on the next page here a piece from Blipsqueak, a good friend of mine, with a very unique style in graffiti. Lots of attempts in order to include double structures and a more cubistic influence on the actual letters themselves. Now this piece here is less in that domain, right? This is more of your typical graffiti that does feature kind of double structures happening. Some of the other work is crazy technical, and I love seeing their stuff. Check out these 2 pieces. First up, we got this toner piece here, which, gotta say, as a fellow Puerto Rican, I love the Puerto Rican love there at the bottom. But check check out that R. That R is sick. But I think, personally, my favorite letter here has got to be the E. Once again, love the R, but the E might be my favorite letter here. That's just personal preference, though. We move on to the next page, and man, if you guys don't know, I love comic books. I love comic books, and this was right up my alley. Also, Superman might be one of my least favorite heroes, so seeing him, you know, dead with the cape, beautiful, amazing. But getting back to what's on topic here, the ARD piece came out crisp. It came out beautifully done. Absolutely amazing job. And for those of you guys who are new in graffiti, this is like the kind of stuff that you might see when people hit one another's books. Oftentimes it'll be hand styles and throwaways. That's the most common thing to do, because typically speaking, you're kind of like, you know, you don't have a lot of time in order to hit somebody's book, but with these, you really kind of get to flex your skills. So when you get your hands on a physical traveling sketchbook, you have a lot more time to flex your skills. But when you're handed a sketchbook at a wall or some kind of event and time isn't necessarily on your side, you might see stuff like this right here. So if you happen to pick up the digital sketchbook, this stuff is more than welcome. Do whatever you like in these pages. Even if it's not graffiti, if you're just, you know, trying to share some artwork. Personally, my favorite part has to be the straight letter at the bottom. Straight letter came out really well done, and I like the throwaway as well. Now guys, I really enjoyed featuring your guys' artwork in this kind of format in this book. So if you guys want to see more of this, number one, definitely submit your artwork within the pages of this digital sketchbook, and we'll keep the series going. But number two, you gotta be sure to download the sketchbook first, right? It works for Procreate and for Photoshop. You just gotta download the corresponding file, and to gain access to that file, join the mailing list on my website in the description down below. And once you do that, you'll receive an email inviting you to download the sketchbook. Now, some people haven't been getting that email. Be sure to check all of your different folders in your email to make sure that you do receive that. But if you don't, come back to this video, leave a comment, and I'll hook you up. It'll be, you know, taken care of without any issue. And while you're on the website, be sure to pick up the bundle book we published. It's the best way to jumpstart your graffiti pieces. And of course, if you want more graffiti informational content, check out the videos over here, and I'll catch you guys back here next week. Thanks for watching.